Yeah, so come on, Greg. You know, we've touched base on what the book's about.
Yes.
Now, give us a little insight. Give us a little story. Give us a little taster, as you will. You know, of the book. You know, give us a little taster. Give us a specific story, or give us, tell us something that you recalled that was a high moment or a low moment or one of each, whatever. Just give us
Yeah.
something.
Well, I mean, whenever I think back on, I mean, I've been involved in wrestling now for just over 10 years. And when I think back on those 10 years, the first thing that always springs to mind for me is International Showdown in 2005. You know, I mean, I write for Power Slam, and you know, Power Slam has never covered a British-based wrestling show with a 4-page spread ever. And being a journalist, I tend to measure success on, you know, how it's covered, so how things are covered in the media. And Power Slam called it. I remember the headline. They called that show "As Good as It Gets." That was the headline, you know.
Yeah.
And I think so. I mean, you know, that was Coventry Sky Dome, March 2005. Alex Shane promoting it in conjunction with the Wrestling Channel.
Yeah.
And the book talks about that day and as a day when, you know, for me, nothing went wrong, you know, and that you can very rarely say that about a British wrestling
No.
show.
No.
But
Yeah.
you were there, weren't you, Steve? Yeah, you were
Oh,
on.
I was. If I remember correctly, that was the main event was AJ Styles versus Chris Daniels.
Yes.
And I remember only refereeing 2 matches on that card, and they were the last 2 matches of the card, and
Yeah.
it was Kenta Kobashi and Go Shiozaki versus Doug Williams. No,
No, that was the Universal Uproar, I think, when Kobashi came
it
over.
was. Yeah, sorry. So in that was the 6-man Noah.
Yes, it was Misawa
Yeah,
Ogawa,
yeah,
and he was called Kotaro Suzuki.
Suzuki. Yeah.
Tiger Emperor. I think he wrestled under a mask,
Tiger
did he?
Emperor versus James Ty, Doug Williams, and Too Cold Scorpio.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Yes,
So do you
that's
know
right.
what? I do this all the time, and I have to apologise. I always get the two mixed. I get the two mixed up: International Showdown and Universal Uproar. Because
Yes.
in my head, when you was mentioning it there, I'm thinking, oh, Mick Foley. Who else was there? Oh, yeah. And it's thinking, wait a minute, it was CM Punk was there? No, that was a different one.
Yeah,
So International Showdown did have CM Punk.
that's right. There's Samoa Joe.
Yeah. Who else was on that? Was
Well,
a
then
warm-up
Razor.
match. I'm pretty sure the warm-up match for that was Dirk Feelgood versus Colt Cabana.
No, that was British Uprising 3.
Was that?
Because we did. Well, this is confusing because we did. You're right, Steve. We did 3 shows at Coventry Sky Dome within a year. You know, it was a big.
Yeah.
It was a big thing. That was a holy grail of sorts, the Coventry Sky Dome, because that was one of Alex's. Alex always said his 2 biggest ambitions were to get a weekly TV show and
Yeah.
to run the Coventry Sky Dome. And I don't know what it was about Coventry Sky Dome, but I think it was because they had that UCW show there, and then Ryan Hewson's show that didn't happen.
Oh, that one.
Was it like a goal, wasn't it? Why Coventry Sky Dome? Why was it this big sort of mecca? I mean, it was a
I think really because it was
I think in a Midland city on a ring road. I mean, it was
3,000
great.
seater.
Yeah, well, absolutely, yeah. It was the biggest. I mean, it was the biggest venue that any of us had done. I mean, it was great. And British Uprising 3. The book goes into great detail about what went wrong at that show, because that was the beginning of the end of the FWA. And
I remember that so well because, and
yeah.
I think I mentioned this to you. I remember getting into a phone conversation, and I think I pretty much was ripping into you because I had D'Lo Brown staying at my house. I had D'Lo Brown. Well, if you don't remember it, I'll refresh your memory. D'Lo Brown was staying at my house. He was meant to be going to London for an audition for Celebrity Wrestling. We then got to London. The person that was meant to be picking us up from London didn't turn up. So then you told us to get into a taxi cab and get over to Barry's house, where Colt Cabana, Paul Travell, we were meeting a few guys there, and then driving up to Coventry. As we were getting to Barry's house in London, I I then got another phone call to say that there were TV cameras waiting to interview D'Lo Brown at 1 o'clock. This was like midday, and I think I just got extremely peed off and just sort of ranted you out over the telephone while I was in the car. Yeah, because it was just like, it was just one of them things where it was just one thing after the other, and we need you here. Now you've got to get into a taxi cab and pay £60 and go to this place and this, that, and the other. So yeah, it was a real.
Yeah, it's all coming back to me. I think that day, a lot of it I've blotted out of my mind because, you know, I mean, this is something I go into in the book, is that I've got this personality where I just have nothing. Getting involved in wrestling and being a wrestling manager and a commentator and managing the tag team champions and being in the FWA, that should have been enough for me. But no, I've got to say to Alex one night in the summer of 2004, I'd like to get more involved. I'd like to get involved in the management side. I was totally sold on this mission, this holy grail, because Alex was such a persuasive and inspirational guy. You know, I mean, he really sold everybody on it, and I should never have got involved in the management side, really, because when I did, I realised that FWA behind the scenes was really badly organised, and some of the things that happened on British Uprising 3, I was suddenly on the management team, and it was kind of like, Greg, can you deal with this? Can you deal with that? And a lot of these things I hadn't any knowledge of, or I hadn't been involved in setting anything up. It was just, Greg, you deal with it, kind of. And I was
I remember us arriving at Coventry, and I remember taking you to one side and like apologising, and I do remember honestly saying, well, you know what, you've got yourself into this situation, now you have to deal with it. You know what I mean? You know, whereas before it was like, you know, you try and get hold of Alex, but then you brought yourself into it, and management was like, right, so then everything was just Greg, deal with Greg.
No, absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to make any excuses for it. And, you know, there were times when I handled it quite well, and there were times where I handled it really badly. And I mean, one thing I'll say about the book is I think I'm quite critical about myself.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot in the book where I say, I hold my hands up, I did that wrong. I should have done that better.
Yeah.
But I was inexperienced, like I said earlier, thrown into the wrestling business without... Scott Conway used to say about me, he hasn't paid his dues. Do you know what, Scott? You're right. I didn't, honestly. And I understand that that's galling, I think, to some of the veterans in British wrestling at the time, that maybe, who is this guy? What do you think he is, kind of thing? I don't know.
I think, to be honest with you, the FWA at the time when it first started was a big gore to the old school wrestler, you know, and again, I'm not trying to blow smoke up my own backside, but I bridged that by I think it was hooking people up with Drew McDonald, you know. Then Drew came over to the FWA, and Robbie Brookside came over. So the people that were first sort of like having a go. Am I still here? Yes. The people that were first having a go about it, then you know, sort of come on board. So you had people like Drew McDonald, Robbie Brookside, Justin Richards, you know. And didn't you have something to do with the old school?
I lost you there for quite a bit, Steve. But
did you?
I did. But the old school.
Yeah.
Well, my debut in the FWA at New Frontiers in 2003 was the death of the old school. You know, the FWA's new school versus old school feud. I think, was that what you were talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was my debut. I mean, Alex and Ulf beat Flash Barker and Mark Sloan at the Walthamstow Halls. Dean Ayers took a chair in the face from memory. He was out. He was written out for a few months.
Yeah.
And Alex and Ulf were in the ring saying, "The old school is dead. FWA, FWA." Remember how the fans used to chant it, "FWA, FWA." It was a brand. It was crazy that the fans were so into it. And I came out on the stage, and that was my debut. You know, interrupting Alex and Ulf and introducing the UK Pitbulls, who gave Alex and Ulf a bit of a beatdown.
Yeah.
And then on the next show, Alex decided that instead he was going to let me manage the family, who were really starting to come into their own as a, you know, the Messiah Brandon Thomas, the David Koresh of the FWA, leading all these misfits who'd been abused and held down, who joined the family. I thought it was fantastic. It was a great, great concept. And the theme tune, Ralph Cardell, I talk about Ralph a lot in the book. Me and Ralph, we had a bit of a falling out, which we go into in the book at the end. But Ralph was great. I always used to get on really, really well with Ralph, and I always thought Ralph was a key part of the FWA. Talking about it being a brand, Ralph's theme music, tailored for each individual wrestler, like the family theme music, which was awesome. Used to give me goosebumps every time I came out. The FWA wouldn't have been the same without the team. No other promotion, no other British wrestling promotion had branded T-shirts at the time, branded music, you know, programs. Look at that.
Hey,
program. How about that? Oh, videos. Remember that one? Frontiers of Honor. There you go.
I've actually got the. Yes, I have. I've got the DVD. They've re-released on DVD.
Videos. Anybody out there in Skype land? They used to put these in a thing called a video recorder and press play, and they get chewed up. It's an amazing invention. And anybody ever wonder what happened to Paul Burchill? I forgot him. I kidnapped him after he left WWE, and there he is. I shrunk him a bit, but he can still do the standing shooting star press on a cold day,
which I've never seen him do in WWE.
I saw him do it a couple of times actually.
Oh, okay.
He did it eventually. It's a shame. Paul was great. I mean, the book goes in and talks about Paul quite a lot. Paul was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just like, we didn't have a British wrestler like him, did we, at the time?
Yeah. Didn't he? He did something to me, didn't he?
He did. He gave you a right good beating.
He did, didn't he?
And that was when we came in, Crunch 2003.
I remember. It was bringing him in, wasn't it? And I was the first person to take all his finishing moves within a space of 2 seconds of each other. Thanks. That's how highly I was thought of in FWA. You know, let's see if Paul can do these stuff. Thanks. On me. Yeah, I remember that. Isn't that in the top 100? Because you did a list, didn't you? The FWA's top.
Yes, it's in there. It's in there.
Is that still about? I want to see that.
Should be in there quite a bit. I just, before I came on, I tweeted and said Lambert and Lynskey were probably the two most hated men in the FWA.
Yeah.
At the time, I think we probably were, because the fans. That was the good thing, is that we got proper heat, didn't we?
Yeah.
They really did despise us. It wasn't, even though they were smart fans, they understood how wrestling went. They were quite happy. Half the chance, I think.
Me definitely. I don't know what. 5 more minutes.
Yeah,
that's not happening.
Hey, you never had. Listen, you never had anybody create an inflatable doll of your wife to taunt you with, like I did.
Of course, Mrs. Lambert. Whatever happened to Mrs. Lambert? The inflatable, not Mrs.
I think all pile drived her and she burst.
Let's have a few seconds silence for the inflatable Mrs. Lambert.
Do you know who it was who created the inflatable Mrs. Lambert, by the way? You know SC Supreme?
The name rings a bell, yes.
One of Styx's guys at House of Pain in Nottingham. It was him and his mate.
Oh, right, okay.
They used to come to the shows. And that's the other thing about FWA, is that, you know, like myself, so many people who, you know, are now involved in British wrestling, or have gone on to like WWE, like Martin Stone went to British Uprising 1 as a fan.
I've seen him on the video in the crowd chanting.
Right. And a lot of other people as well, you know, promoters like Dan Edler, Sanjay Bagga, they all started watching FWA. That's where, you know, me and Bagga have always, we've always had a bit of a,
I have an we have an understanding as well.
Healthy respect. It's all in the book, Steve. It's all in the book.
Controversial. There we go. So, what else can we touch upon? I mean, we've gone now a little bit in the middle. Maybe in a minute we can go into the end. So,